All right, our final matchup here is the Sunday night football game, Austin. And if the football gods gave us a dandy last week, they're trying to give us a real crappy one this week.
Right here.
The Philadelphia Eagles for now will host the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football with a 43.5 over-under, with Philadelphia favored by just 3.5 points at home. Austin, I wish I didn't have to make you talk about this Dallas offense or this Dallas team at all, but hopefully you don't have any Tabasco on your finger here.
Oh, my goodness. Gotta pause the Zoom.
Yeah. And hopefully Whisper Nation can hit like and subscribe. If they're new to the channel, go ahead and hit subscribe. Let us get you that fresh content each day. But let's talk about that Dallas offense, Austin, and what to expect here, because we might not see Dalton, which means we might see Ben DiNucci at quarterback here, because we saw him a little bit against Washington. What does this do for these pass catchers? I'm afraid to ask.
We saw a little bit of Ben DiNucci, right? His three attempts, 2 completions, 39 yards. We saw Ben DiNucci pull out world beater. You're not starting Ben DiNucci. You don't want to start any of the quarterbacks right now out of Dallas. Andy Dalton, even if he is back, it's not looking good. Despite how many pass attempts he's going to be forced to throw, because that defense all has Tabasco sauce in their eyes. Doesn't matter. He can't complete a pass despite those incredible weapons in Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. I haven't seen a polished rookie wide receiver like CeeDee Lamb. Maybe I can't think of anybody who's exceeded him. But he looks incredible. Sorry, CeeDee Lamb, you got Ben DiNucci right now. So I'm not feeling good about this. We'll see what happens. He's an NFL player. It's coming in, but at least at the quarterback spot, no.
Yeah, and you've got these wide receivers here, Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. Austin, when I'm looking at it, and I'm invested in Amari Cooper in a few leagues, and I'm looking at it, he did see 7 targets, caught all 7 of them for 80 yards. Seems to be the only one remotely trustworthy here in the passing attack. But with Ben DiNucci, do you see yourself benching Amari Cooper in any situation?
As always, it depends on who else you're looking to play. I'm not stoked about Amari Cooper with Ben DiNucci, because you just don't know who he's going to be relying on. You don't know if he's developed a little bit of rapport with one of these other pass catchers in practice as the 3rd string quarterback. But Cooper is the alpha. He is still that number 1. And if I had to start one of these wide receivers, I'm definitely going to be leaning on Amari Cooper. Right now, I'm not stoked about it, but the man is talented. The man's been consistent with a lot of different quarterbacks in his day. And Amari Cooper, I would still feel all right with Amari Cooper. He's going to be on the field quite a bit. But, last week, Michael Gallup did lead the team in snap percentage there at 91% compared to Cooper's 75%, and CeeDee Lamb down to 55%. Back in the Dak Prescott days, you saw all those guys at 80, 90%, a lot of 3 wideout sets. I'd be surprised if they can still run that explosive type of high-flying offense. I think we're going to see more running backs involved, more games from Zeke and Pollard, and Cooper will always be out there, though. I know that Mike McCarthy said Gallup is also a 1, but I think Cooper is going to hold that role, at least for the time being.
Zeke did not fumble in his last game against Washington, but he did have his worst game of the year, 12 carries, 45 yards. Obviously, you're starting Zeke. Are you trying to get out of Ezekiel Elliott?
Let's think about the reasons why we liked drafting Ezekiel Elliott at the beginning of the season. He was the unquestioned lead dog playing behind one of the best offensive lines in the NFL on a very explosive offense led by upcoming quarterback Dak Prescott, who can move the chains, chuck it deep, do whatever you need him to do. They don't have an outstanding offensive line. They relegated a lot of different of their studs to the IR. They're just not that world-beating offensive line that they were. They're on their 3rd string quarterback, who might be better than their 2nd string quarterback. We also see Ezekiel Elliott playing, dare I say it, a little uninspired. His numbers have been the lowest they've been since he's come in. He's got that long-term deal. There's a lot of down energy over there in the Dallas locker room. I don't know really what, other than pride and principle, I don't know why Ezekiel Elliott's coming out to bust heads right now. I just don't know what it's about. And I think it could be like, hey, Tony Pollard, go do your thing, man. Like, we're a squad, we're a team. Let's split the load here and save his legs for next year when they might be actually competitive.
Hypothetical trade. You're offered Tyler Lockett and James Conner for Ezekiel Elliott.
Yes.
All right. That's the world we're in right now.
I'd probably do.
I'm
You don't even need to give me Tyler Lockett. I would take
Just
James
give it
Conner
James
over Zeke.
Conner.
I would take James Conner over Zeke rest of
The
season for
trade
sure.
is, yeah, I think that's right around the what you could ask and probably get back. Dalton Schultz, I don't think is anybody we're going to be interested in, especially with DiNucci in the lineup. So let's go over to the Philly side of the ball. Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
I mean, don't look now, but Carson Wentz is actually getting it done at the quarterback position, Austin.
He's getting it done at the quarterback position. Tress Fulgham looks like a number one. They're getting Alshon Jeffrey back pretty darn soon. Gregory Ward, my boy, he's been doing all right. They don't have Zach Ertz, which is weird, but whatever. And I think that Carson Wentz is a really good quarterback. He's a really good quarterback who just needs to settle down and to have that team come together. I believe in Doug Peterson. I believe in the Eagles organization. And Carson Wentz has suggested that he is somebody that you might be able to rely on. And they're in a competitive environment right now. The Eagles have a lot to play for. And Carson Wentz has been rising to the occasion. 25 completions on 43 attempts, 359 yards last week, 2 touchdowns. And I just think we're going to see more of these ceiling type of games coming out of Carson Wentz moving forward as they have more to play for and he's getting more comfortable in the system and everything that's going on there in Philadelphia.
Miles Sanders still likely out in this game as he's going to miss a couple weeks with the knee injury. Boston Scott kind of came in relief here, and it was a hot waiver ad last week. How are you feeling about Boston Scott, especially against a Dallas defense that can't stop anything?
The thing I like most about Boston Scott, if Miles Sanders is out, is Boston Scott really does look to be the next bell cow in line. We were thinking about Huntley and Corey Clement and how they might be factoring in and forming a committee over there in Philadelphia. Not really the case. 22% snap share there for Clement, 10% for Huntley, and Boston Scott there at 69%. Not only led in snap percentage, but in terms of touches, both on the ground and through the air, he led all the running backs in both of those. 12 touches, 46 yards. On the ground and 5 pass attempts, 3 receptions for 46 yards and that touchdown. So Boston Scott, I'm feeling really good. I think him and Carson Wentz are linking up. Carson Wentz is going to need to be relying on that run game. They're going to need that to be a part of what's happening. So I feel good about whoever's going to be starting at the running back spot for Philadelphia. And if it's Boston Scott or Miles Sanders, either one, load me up.
All right, here's a tricky one. Both were waiver wire ads last week, Boston Scott and Jamal Williams. If both Aaron Jones and Miles Sanders are out this week, you've got Jamal Williams against Minnesota. You've got Boston Scott here against Dallas. Who are you taking?
Ooh, this is a really good one. I like this a lot. I think that Boston Scott is an exciting piece. And the only thing eating into my Jamal Williams hype is I remember his film from years past. And I know A.J. Dillon is right around the corner. It does not, that's not a good take because A.J. Dillon hasn't done a lot, but he hasn't been given a lot of opportunity. But you don't draft a running back that early unless you want to see what they're about. Jamal Williams looks comfortable. I think they're going to need to have some more work done to A.J. Dillon as the season progresses, the weather gets colder. Injury risk is always a concern, and having another really good back on your team would be a nice thing to have. That would be A.J. Dillon if we're not with Aaron Jones. There is not another good running back there for Philadelphia. So Boston Scott doesn't have any real competition, as where last week's numbers wouldn't suggest A.J. Dillon has any real shot at eating into Jamal Williams, but his talent to me would suggest otherwise. I'm not concerned about Huntley or Clement, though, coming at Boston Scott.
Super tricky question, right? Because what you laid out there, right? But then you could make the argument that Jamal Williams playing on the better offense should mean more opportunity, but you could argue maybe Boston Scott, the focal point of his offense means he's got all the volume. So it's really about the quality versus the quantity kind of thing.
I was right there with you. This week, Philadelphia plays Dallas.
Yeah.
So the offense, the best offense in the league this week is Philadelphia. That's the way I'm looking at this one.
Enough.
And that's what helped tip the Scott to Boston Scott. I'm not concerned about Vikings defense, but I'm laughing at the Dallas defense.
Fair enough. And part of the weapons that will go against that Dallas defense are the Fulgham and the Ward and the guys you talked about before. Richard Rodgers likely to get involved this week. How are you seeing your comfort level on starting these guys once again, since that is that Dallas defense?
I'm feeling really good about all of them, to be honest. And it's a divisional game, and I think they could try to rub it in too. I think Philadelphia dominates in this game, and I think they keep their starters in a little bit longer just to show who the NFC East really belongs to. And it should be Philadelphia. I think they're going to try to make a statement with this win. And I think they have enough pieces to actually make this happen. You saw Rodgers last week come in, have 8 targets, 6 catches, 85 yards. Really nice rapport there with Carson Wentz. And I'm just excited to see Hakeem Butler, the former Arizona Cardinals wide receiver, who was over now in Philadelphia. They converted him to a tight end. He didn't do anything, but he did get on the field for a snap, which shows me they're thinking about him. He's not just on the practice squad. And anytime you got a wide receiver now coming in at a tight end position, that's just something exciting for where it's at. I like the movement that Philadelphia's got involved. And Travis Fulgham has been one of those pieces about the movement as well. So many new wide receivers Philadelphia brought in, from drafting Rieger and 2 other wide receivers they drafted. Hightower included was one of those. But Fulgham, here he is, right? Second-year player. They got J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who hasn't stepped up. Greg Ward, who seemingly came out of nowhere, is a really nice compliment in that wide receiving core. And Fulgham looks like their number 1, 3 consecutive weeks with double-digit targets. And the first week in 3 weeks, he hasn't gotten a touchdown last week. So I'm excited about the pieces and how they're all starting to come together. And they're going to get Alshon Jeffrey back, which is just some lonely sprinkles on top of this whole Philadelphia Sunday.
And Rager designated to come back soon, along with Dallas Goedert. So there are some pieces coming back for Wentz, which is why I think Wentz is a really nice rest of season stash right now. If you've had some quarterback issues, I think Wentz is a guy you could be picking up to look down the stretch, especially Dallas here, then the bye. They've got New York Giants, Cleveland, Seattle, Green Bay, New Orleans, Arizona, Dallas. Great end of season schedule that you have there with Wentz. So go ahead. I think if we had to rank these guys, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, I'm going Fulgham, who I start with confidence, was kind of a flex play if you need it. And then Richard Rodgers, I think, is worth the stream this week.
I'd agree with all of that. Let's keep my Fulgham, 96% snap share, Ward, 95% snap share. More receivers are coming back, but the way you placed them there, I would agree with 100%.
All right, well, that does it. We want to know what you think, Whisper Nation. Go ahead and leave a comment below or hit us up on any social media if you'd like. That does it for this rendition of this week's matchup for Week 8 for Austin Sear, who you can find on Twitter at Austin_R_Sear. I am Big Travie. You can find me at Twitter at Big Travie TFW, and we are the Fantasy Whisperers. We're out. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Whisperers podcast. You can hear more from John and Travis on Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at TF Whisperers.